I think it's a really, I mean, I love being a product manager and I love the product space. So welcome. You're in for a lot of ups and downs, and who knows what is going to look like.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Matei Kutcher. I'm your host and the co-founder of ProdCamp, your user feedback platform. And today, in this new episode of the ProdCamp Podcast, we have the pleasure of speaking with Diana Eugenia Matei. And no, she's not my sister. Diana is an experienced fractional product leader, consultant, and product coach who has worked with high-growth scale-up like Tesco, Skyscanner, Gusto, and ClearScore, but also smaller orgs. And when I first connected with Diana, I was struck by her background and passion for helping product teams in companies of various stages shift from simply delivering outputs to actually achieving meaningful outcomes and understanding the real problems product needs to solve. So in today's episode, we'll try to understand what essential so-called product skills should we acquire or sharpen for 2025, because that's already around the corner, right? So in an ever-evolving tech landscape, and especially with AI today, product people need to continuously adapt and grow, refine their skills. So building up the right mix of skills is crucial to stay relevant and effective. Hello, Diana, and welcome. Did I miss anything in the intro?
No, that was a really good intro, and I'm really glad we got to do this. I think we've had some really great chats around product, around what do product managers do, or like some of the common misunderstandings. So I think it's definitely a really important topic to bring to light, and I look forward to diving into it.
Great, really can't wait to hear how your unique perspective will fit into this conversation. So let's get started. Getting to know you a bit more. Your career, as I said, spawns from big companies to startups. So tell us a bit, what first drew you to product management and what keeps you excited about it?
I have to admit, it's like I was really fortunate when I started at Tesco that I got introduced to the role of product owner to start with, and then they did a massive transition to introducing product managers. So I kind of learned early on the debate between product owner and product manager. But what attracted me to it was the amount of creativity and ownership you get. As the product manager, I had to decide what the shape of the product, but also anywhere from strategy, buying with other people, all the way to making sure that in production, there's no bugs. So it was such a wide scope. I mean, if that's still the case, I don't know. But when I started, it was a wide scope that allowed for a lot of learning. And I think what really attracted me to it is, to some level, is similar to the techniques that entrepreneurs do. So you take the responsibility of building features that you should consider the same as you would with any business. You have to make sure they provide return on investment. So that's what really attracted me to it. And what's keeping me excited is, I think, it's the landscape. It's I think that's why I've taken the product skills and then applied them in different industries, in different company sizes, and I think that's the diversity you can get. You get the product mindset, but you can apply it to so many new products. And what's exciting is that now there's new technology, or there's all these changes, but you can use the same set of mindset or tools to apply to new things. I'm just really interested to see how it will actually work out, what products will come out of all of these changes.
Awesome. Creativity, strategy, responsibility. It encapsulated, as you said, so many things, especially when you started. But maybe it changed and shifted a bit since then, but a lot of learnings with it for sure. And as I said, the landscape, we are in a landscape, and the tech landscape especially is evolving so fast, and that's exciting about bringing more challenge and different ones that keeping you excited. Love it. So talking about mindset and skills, you talking often, I've seen, and in our different conversation as well, about building a product mindset. Can you explain what that means for you and why it is so important?
Yeah, so I was just trying to find, I think a lot of people calling it product sense or different words for it, but I think for me is around the way you think about ideas or problems. That's what I think is a mindset. It's around your thinking to how do you validate ideas at speed, you iterate, and then you build products that generate value. So it's kind of the end-to-end process on, okay, how do I go through the stages of understanding what the problems are, understanding whether the problems have value, then iterating and working with customers, or doing the right research to validate. So it's just the thinking you apply to failing quickly. I think that's definitely the one. You wanna I guess get clarity and know whether this is worth investing in sooner. And I do think that's more of a mindset of the questions you start asking. And the other reason why I call it the product mindset is because there's no limit on who does this. It's like it's not only product people should be doing this. It's everyone in the business. And actually, the more people that share this way of thinking, the better, because you can have more meaningful conversations and you can actually move faster or learn a lot quicker. So that's why I see it as like a set of shared principles, approaches on what matters for us. I don't really think tools or frameworks are part of it. Like they help apply some of this thinking, but I think the thinking is just around, look, it's we're always in an ambiguous space. How do we find a path or create a path to get some indication that we're on the right track? It's kind of how I'm thinking. Yeah.
Love it. It's I like that you said it's a question mindset about what matters, and not necessarily a framework or tool. It's more of a logic, right? And it's about the way you think about the problem, validate at speed, as you said, and generate value through our product. So that's it's a great way to put it. And I like actually the product mindset label a bit more than a product sense, because the product sense I think is leaves too much place to only intuition, and I think intuition is a big part of it. So sense should be there, but mindset can include sense and have a broader understanding. So I like the way you put it.
And actually, now that you mention it, I think the difference with sense, so mindset is something you train yourself to think differently. So you challenge the status quo and you don't need experience. You can just be curious and do it. While I think product sense, I do think you might have, as you go through and apply product mindset, you start learning what works, what doesn't in what scenarios. Maybe at that point, you start building this product sense of, this is how I would approach this problem versus this other problem, because I know I've done in the past and it didn't work. At least that's how I understand it, because there is definitely, and probably this is one of those things that doesn't get quantified very, very well in product, is the value of experience. Because as you go and do more things, or there's so much in product that you just learn by doing. Even if you have the mindset, doesn't mean you'll get it right, but at least you'll get it wrong quicker.
Which is not that bad already, right?
Well,
Because
that's what you're
you will
aiming
get it
for.
right. You will get it wrong sometimes, anyways. So there
Yeah.
is no way of avoiding that 100%. Love it. How to adapt. You offer workshop and coaching right now. What are the common challenges you see product manager facing and them having to adapt quickly to in their role? Is there anything specific?
Yes. One of the biggest challenges, and I think this is the space around the problem space and people being comfortable with being ambiguous and not having all the answers. And I think with this space, one other thing that maybe is not much about the skills, but it's about the space we created with thought leaders and everything else is everyone thinks there's a right way to do product. And I feel like instead of the challenge being, hey, how do I apply this here, and how do I, get the best out of the situation, or learn how to, deliver value against the business, and then do some discovery, some this, some that, not perfect, but I'm moving forward against outcomes. Everyone is like, what's the best way to do this? If I'm not doing the best way, then I'm not adding value as a product person. I think that's one of the biggest challenges I get from people I work with, who are already product managers. And I would say there isn't any perfect world. And if us, by talking about all these things, we made it look like it's a perfect world, it's not true. It's a lot around, yes, there's some things that are better than others, but you still kind of find a way. And I think also I'm a very practical person, where I think that you can still apply product mindset even to something that maybe doesn't work fully, but maybe reduce the scope, or find a specific area that might have some freedom, or work with one stakeholder and try to get them to think differently, or introduce metrics, or measure features you're putting out. I think be creative around, okay, what is it that I'm trying to achieve to improve my skills, and what room do I have, even if it's not perfect, but creatively think outside the box for my situation. What are the different options, rather than being, this is not the perfect situation, it's so much work to get it to a perfect situation, and then you kind of just get stuck in a loop. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing from working as a coach, and working with different businesses like startups. Of course, their main question is, how do you validate at speed, and how do you know you're building the right product? And I think that's a more interesting. Well, they're both interesting, but this validating at speed, again, I'm learning so much more personally, and I'm falling in love with assumption mapping. I think is such a beautiful mix of, you don't test big ideas, you break them down, and then you can validate so much faster, because you say, this assumption, okay, maybe there's like few chats I can do that can help me validate it, rather than building MVPs. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment.
Love it. The best practices, I noted that you said the best practices are getting on our way. Too much thought leadership, not enough action. The trick is to stay very practical. And there is always something we can do in our not so ideal product world to move the needle and find some room to drive change. So I really love that, and I agree. Perfect is the enemy of good. And the last part, and I think that's even maybe deserve a whole episode. The validation at speed,
Yes.
and how can you slice the elephant to be able to eat it. I love that, and maybe we'll have an occasion to make another episode about it.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
I wanted to talk a bit about soft skills more specifically. We know that this is a big thing across the board, but especially when we are talking about such fundamental crossroad as product management is. In your opinion, what are the top soft skills product managers should focus on developing right now?
I like the focus on soft skills, because this is no surprise to anyone that manager is a very misleading title. It should be replaced product influence or something, because all you do, you just have to talk to different stakeholders. And I think for me will be some level of influencing. I really think there's so much power in being able to bring people together to understand the why behind what you're doing at all levels. So that would be your stakeholders to really get the buy-in, your engineering team to understand the value this is going to provide. And I think a lot of that is the framing you do as a product person. combined with also storytelling. So you create a big push or move behind it, behind every idea. And this is actually one of the advice I got from someone I used to work with at Tesco, because I kept asking them, what's the big difference between good product manager and great product managers? And he said, is their ability to influence and create a lot of power behind their ideas. So I think, and I've been reading a lot of books around innovation or what sets things apart. And a lot of time you might have ideas that maybe people are not ready for. I think as a product manager, you might want to look at at some problems that maybe the company is not ready for. But that's where those skills of how do you frame it, how do you take a no, and then you actually look at seeing the concerns that stakeholders have rather than being a no. I think that's really important. And I also think, because you said around the top skills, that's one. So influence, storytelling, and empathy is also a really great soft skill, because you have to bring loads of different people together. And I think a big part of that is understanding where they're coming from and what they're trying to achieve. So I think it's empathy with curiosity, or like, I don't know if asking good questions is a soft skill, but like definitely that's how you do it. You do it by asking good questions, but they have to come from a curious, collaborative, empathy point of view, where you kind of really root cause stakeholders. What are they trying to achieve? If they're saying no, or if they're not getting on board with those things, or if they're pushing for a deadline, why? Like, what is behind, what is driving their behavior to do those things? And the more you are proactive in building that relationship and getting an understanding, the more you're going to be able to, again, feed into your storytelling, or feed into how you approach things to really build trust. And then, I guess where I was going with this is, the trust stakeholders have in you will actually allow you to build better products. It maybe shouldn't be this way. Maybe it should be better, like great products should just speak for themselves. But reality is that you are that image that people buy into. And if you want to be able to innovate or try new things, invest in building trust. And you build trust through empathy, understanding where they come from. How do you frame those solutions or opportunities for them?
We have to deal with our not so ideal world, and we have to be pragmatic there. So I love how you bring that to the ground level. Influence through storytelling, empathy, curiosity. Those are definitely great soft skills to have. Can you? And you have already told a couple of stories about it, but could you share an example of how a soft skills like exactly empathy or curiosity, or even storytelling, has made a difference in your work, in your past experience?
I think for me, I joined a few places, but I joined specifically a company where the trust in products was quite low. So I've been in a few places where they're part of transition, and they get product people to, I don't know, come in and do some magic. And that's where empathy and curiosity really helped to not just take things for their face value. So let's say, stakeholders always want to have access to engineers, or they used to do things in a certain way, and then you come in and you're like now the in-between person, and they're like, well, now I have to change what I do. What's the value of changing what I do? And you pretty much have probably a month or 2 months to really make an impact. I think that's where empathy comes in, because you might not be able to make an impact with the quick wins immediately, but you can have an impact with product mindset. You can have the impact with understanding. And I think asking a lot of the questions, you untangle root causes that then you can say, oh, if this is really the problem you're trying to achieve behind the scenes, or if this is really the metric you want to drive, there's a lot of other ideas we can be doing, and we can be doing them faster. So empathy has helped me to build relationships with people, get them to open up, and ultimately get them to give those initial, MVPs or initial product implementations that are different than what they used to do. Give them a chance, and then great, we started seeing results. But the sooner I was able to build that trust, the sooner I was able to influence and suggest new things and get the metrics. So I think, yeah, your personalities first, then the metrics and the impact. Kind of, you have to do it, but like have to put it in release it, then get it. But you get people to, as I said, give it a chance based on how you're framing things.
Right. It all ties up anyway, because like trust, how to influence, ability to ask the question and understand the why behind people ask or needs, and question ask will also help you build priorities and plans in a way that people will understand them and will understand the why behind them, and also probably what's in it for them, right?
Yeah.
Talking about hard skills now, I've seen many things, and I see always on Reddit and everywhere, like what type of coach should I know? Should I know how to do BI? Should I know how to do manage SQL or whatever? In your opinion, what are the hard skills that are the most valuable for product managers today?
That's a very good question. And I think product management is changing so much that I'm going to be one of those annoying people to be like, it depends. Because I think the hard skills are very much linked to the vision you have for the type of product role you want to be doing and the stage you are at in your career. Because I think that if you want to be a technical product person, then the hard skills will be maybe getting more of an understanding on the technical side and building that expertise and domain knowledge. If you want to be a growth product manager, then maybe your focus should be on experimentation, and it should be on rapid prototyping or being able to validate ideas very quickly. So I think it's really good to have a vision of, look, consider your career as a product. So like, what am I trying to do? Okay, where am I trying to go? Those are the skills that will actually help me. And definitely talk to people who are already there, get mentoring from them, find out what those skills are exactly for that specific role, and just think ahead 1-2 roles rather than too many, because there's so many changing factors. But if I was to give a generic, all PM should really think through is, I think it will be having clarity around the problem space. I think getting comfortable with ambiguity, being able to frame problems really well. And I think, before you go into even a double diamond, you have to understand, what is the setup of my product? What are the gaps? What's my performance of my product? Where should I invest time and resources? What questions do I have? And I think that is a mix of analytics, that is a mix of generative user research, that is a mix of even doing exercises with stakeholders. So I think that is really important, and then prioritizing problems, because I think a lot of time we just don't do it. It's just, you identify a problem or a lot of problems, you have to prioritize between them, and maybe that links in with business cases. If you're ever used to thinking through, okay, what's the reach of this? How many users? If I was to estimate the value, how much value would it be? I think that is a really good part of exercise. I think getting more commercially minded about whatever it is that you're doing, and linked to that is setting outcomes. And I know I just mentioned loads of things, but they're all in the problem space. Like, you have to think about, where do you want to go? how your product is in that sense, what metrics do you want to track, and then prioritize ruthlessly. But I think there's no other role in any ecosystem that covers that. It's just a product manager. And ultimately, there is a way to track that, because the decisions you make would then be a return on investment. You'll be able to see whether you actually focused on the things that will provide value for the business within the time frame you decided. Yeah.
Love that. What type of product manager you want to be? Because we said it a bit earlier. There are now this product management role is fractioning into many different roles. Like we have product operation, we have product marketing, we have product management, sales, product ownership. There's many different type of product people right now. So where do you want to be? Technical product manager or whatever, and maybe even what product manager do you want to be within this role? Like what kind of product manager do you want to be, and where is your best values? This is what I heard from what you said, and I felt like you were choosing a bit that between more discovery than delivery, because what you said, and I guess that's also depend on what company stage are you most interested in and more involved in. But the most generic skills you gave are gap mapping, data analytics, prioritization. I would say that those are more discovery related skills, but maybe not prioritization. It has some it's sitting in between. And I always find it interesting that we are always pulled in between these two parts of the business that we need to drive anyway, which are discovery and delivery.
That's an interesting thing, because I do think technical product managers, or whatever your product is, you can still be applying those skills, because ultimately every product exists to provide value either to the business or to the customer. Or if you have that great combo where providing value to the customer means providing value to the business, perfect. But you can still think through, okay, am I here to save cost? Am I here to optimize? And how can I do this better? Where are the gaps? Am I here to provide a service for other people in the business? I think the logic is the same of where are my gaps? Where can I be doing better? And maybe it's not as obvious, and it's probably not as discussed about as B2C, because that's the one where it's like everyone understands those loops. But when you're like, but I have APIs, like I just, take care of this, and then I have 3 massive clients. So there's a lot less to prioritize, but you can still identify, where should I invest my time? Because one thing that's true, there's not enough resource for anyone to do all the ideas that they have. So that's a fact. And I think that's the point of, rather than delivering what is on the backlog, because your backlog will always have stuff. That's not the skill to be like, here's a backlog, because it could be items from everywhere. The skill is, here are the top 3 things that I looked at the backlog and are going to provide value, and here's how we're going to measure this.
Right, universal truth: never enough time, never enough resources. So that's for sure. And moving on from the hard skills, we haven't talked too much about tools or methodologies. We talk about mindset, we talk about skills, but how do you stay up to date with the latest maybe tools, technologies, and do you have through the year, did you build maybe some sort of kind of ideal tech tool stack or something like that?
Yeah, I think that is a really good question, because one part that I like about product management is because it's been around for a long time, but it's still young. There's still not answers to everything to be like, oh, I can reference this. This is the ultimate truth. And I think it's around picking and choosing. So I do spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and I would say choose top few people that you trust, that will be able to share good insights based on their experience or changing things. So actually in the last few months, I kind of learned about a new framework. I forgot the name of it. It was kind of linking the whole vision all the way to backlog in a really nice way. And the latest thing I've learned was an article that I love the double diamond, but someone challenged to say, going through the double diamond is not the only way to deliver value. And I was like, it's true, I get it. But then it just made me think differently. And I think look, there's like the basics to be like, okay, what are the tools that I need to understand? And then is like, how do I find ways to expand on the things that I always use, so that I don't always just use the same things, but I look at different ways of doing it. So a lot of the time when, I would also research or like go through Google, ChatGPT to be like, are there different ways to do this? So, you want to expand your thinking, similar to like the quality of it. When you have a new problem, where would I go to try and get different opinions? What else? I still think talking to a lot of different people, I really, really enjoy that. Obviously now I have a bit more time, and a lot of my time is during the week get to have a lot of chats, which is great. So I find and reach out to people on LinkedIn that their profile is really interesting, or they're ahead in their journey where I would want to go in. And then I'm able to have conversations and learn about their experiences and what they're currently doing. But I think it's the same with follow those people, or find mentors, or go to communities where they are chatting about new things or new applications of something and how did they solve that specific problem. Obviously, product ambulance is another very good one. But yeah, there's a lot of those communities. And the last thing that I try to do a lot more of, but I'm not very good at, is to introduce play as part of my routine. So rather than defaulting into how is this solved already, just, think, how would I like to do it? Or let me change this, or just allow that deep thinking to maybe for the first time start from a solution. Be like, I would like to do this. What if I did this? What would happen? Because I think it's important to be hands-on as well when you're thinking through or think about how would I approach this problem, and then go back to that best practice, and think through your own limitations, and then be like, okay, how would others do it? So yeah.
Great, thank you for that. Can you, just to go back a minute or two, can you explain, so you were talking about the double diamond. Can you explain for those who don't know the concept, please?
Oh, yes. Double diamond. Double diamond is, well, actually, I learned that anyway. British Design Council made it really big. And ultimately, it's a way of thinking and the different steps you take in order to deliver really high quality solutions. And the reason why I like it is the shape of two diamonds next to each other, and it starts from one diamond is the problem space, but ultimately it's the way you think about the problem. So you start from something like an outcome, or and be like, okay, how should I achieve this? And you go wide in divergent thinking. So you look at what are all the different options or all the different evidence, and then the second part of the diamond is to actually converge. So you focus on what is the one thing I would like to look at and prioritize, and then it's the same process for the solution space, where you start from, okay, now that I have a problem statement, what are the different ways in which we can solve this? And then, okay, once you have all these different ways, you go back into, okay, let's prioritize the one we want to move forward with. And the reason why I think is really good is because it just makes me think of how do you add more quality into the process, rather than jumping from, I have a problem, this is a solution. You have to be like, well, there might be more problems, and then there might be more solutions for this. So that's how I use it. But I think people do take a lot literally to like, there's like a flow and you can't really skip those steps and so on. But I imagine it a lot more fluid. And I think that's what that article that the guy was sharing was. In reality, it kind of goes back and forth, like problem to solution, and they help each other a lot more. And it's kind of more of a loop rather than a line. And I was like, Okay, makes sense.
Which makes sense when we're talking iterations, right? So go back and forth between the things you've done and the results you were looking to get. Great. Thank you so much for this explanation. I will add an article, and if you can send me the article,
Yes.
I will add it to the podcast for reference. That would be great for all the audience. You said a few words about it, but just for the sake of putting it into the right box of the podcast, what advice would you give to someone that just start their career in product management today? So you were mentioning mentoring, uh, maybe communities, reaching out to thought leaders that are ahead of the journey. Maybe something else.
Yes. I'm trying to. I think it's a really. I mean, I love being a product manager, and I love the product space. So welcome. You're in for a lot of ups and downs, and who knows what is going to look like. I think be aware of the foundations of what are the core principles that will help you to deliver strong products, and then definitely spend time in practice. How will you go about it? And the other thing that I find really, really useful, because reality is that a lot of help, especially when you're starting out, is very, very practical. And I think the match between, okay, this person said this, and then like, what does it actually mean when you're putting in practice? And I think a lot of the time what I found useful is having someone, maybe a product designer or product analyst or someone else, or even your engineering counterpart, that you can brainstorm with. To be like, hey, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve. I think this is the path, but we can work together on the practicality of what shape should this take. And I think we don't really discuss about that as much, because there's a massive gap between here's how to do it, like here's the right way, and then I'm like, I don't know how to translate that. And obviously that's why I really like product ambulance, because you you're really going to detail of what does it actually mean in practice. But I would suggest, find those people in the business that you'll be able to do more whiteboarding sessions and go through the detail and be able to work things through. And I think definitely mentoring, it's also really, really powerful, be it inside the business or outside the business. Um,
Love that. And now for, let's say, a bit more experienced product manager, what's that one skill they might, overlook, or that one thing they should really focus on for the next year?
that's a good point. If you're like more experienced, I think I've spent a lot of time trying to be like, what are the different nuances of product, from product to senior to then higher, and I think the biggest difference is the level of ambiguity you can handle. So I think if you're a mid-level or like a mid-level product person, you might have specific OKRs that someone else has set, and then you're like, okay, let's go through the discovery process of how we're going to deliver against those product metrics. The higher you go, the more generic the metrics are. So then you have to create more structure around what does that actually mean? How does it translate into opportunities or problem spaces? So if it's like around hard skills, I'll definitely be looking, even though it's very confusing and there's a lot of information out there, strategy, in the simplest format. So how do you capture where your product should be going? I would be looking into assumption mapping, or like assumptions, like testing assumptions. And I think the other one is around create your structures to create as many links between what the business wants and what the product is actually delivering, be it you or other people in your team delivering that product. But the clearer you are on how does product work translate into business needs, and how do the business needs translate into product, I think is really important. And I used to underestimate that, but it's a lot of skill. It's a lot of what structure should you put, get the buy-in from the business. If you want to create product metrics that's different than business metrics, you have to get the buy-in of, this is how this works, this is how we're going to validate, this is the overall roadmap. Or if you want to change your roadmap to be problem-based roadmap, good luck. I mean, in terms of, you have to do again that communication with different people, and the higher you go, the more senior you get, the more important is to build those bridges and to have a diverse communication skill set to be able to adapt the message to different people, and resilience to push through.
Lot of it, because it's not an easy job. That's for sure. I love it. So advice for more junior PMs: find allies to brainstorm early and confront your ideas. For more senior ones, and I really love this one and how you put it, learn to handle a high level of uncertainty and turn it into more actionable and controllable items, and create obvious links between business and product. So that's really great advice, really grounded. I love it. And maybe one last question, because you mentioned already a couple of places you're going to go and fetch information and insights. Any specific, and we'll add that to the description of the podcast as well. But any specific sources inside LinkedIn, maybe person you would recommend, a blog, a podcast, communities, books you would advise people to focus on?
Yes, I have a few people. I need to remember their
That's
name.
fine. Diana, we can just add it. You can just send it to me afterward, and we'll add it to the description, so people will have everything they need there.
I will do that.
We'll be fine.
Yes, because I think there are some really good people that I follow, especially around strategy, or especially that space around bridging the gaps and OKRs and communication, that I'll definitely put in, because it is a complex space, and the more you get practical advice, the better. The other lady that I do really like her is Wes Cow. She's brilliant. I think she's the co-founder of Maven, but her newsletter is so actionable. It's all about kind of managing up or managing expectations, or it's all that in between, where it's like, what does a head of product or head of this do? She really explains that very well, and gives really good practical advice. And a recent book I finished, I'm probably quite late to this, but is 0 to 1. And I thought it was very good, because it did make me think about vision aligned with all this iteration, and they seem to be competing, because everyone's like, no, the vision is going to make us there, we just have to deliver this. And then you have the whole, but we need to iterate. But I think I can see now how actually the best products have a combination, and actually the vision plays a bigger role than I used to think in shaping the product. So definitely recommend 0 to 1.
Thank you so much, Diana. We're arriving at the end of this great interview. Thank you for making yourself avail in the middle of the summer to talk about such a great topic, and hopefully bring some great advice for people to adjust their skills and the way they learn throughout their journey to prepare for the future. Thank you so much, Diana. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And of course, if people want to reach out as well and get in touch, just message me on LinkedIn is one of the best places. But I truly enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We'll add your LinkedIn profile also to the description of the video for reference, and if any people want to reach out. Thank you, Diana. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Bye.